The Resident Evil 1 remake is one of the few games that's damn near perfect. Every aspect of the game, down to the smallest minute details, have been crafted with immense care to provide the player with an unforgettable survival horror experience. This is my review of Resident Evil. Resident Evil has the most refined gameplay out of any survival horror game. I think I can safely say that there are no shortcomings in the core gameplay loop. Everything has been designed purposely and methodically. Nothing screams out to me as a design oversight. Resident Evil's main gameplay philosophy revolves around choices and the consequences for those choices. Resident Evil, being a survival horror game, means it has great emphasis put on the resource and item management aspect of gameplay. Resident Evil utilizes a limited inventory system to put pressure on the player and force them to think critically about the inventory, because having only 8 inventory slots drastically limits the amount of items you can take with you. Let's say you want to take 2 guns, their respective ammunition, and a healing item. That right there is a whopping 6 inventory slots, only leaving 2 spaces for anything important you might come across. This aspect is even tougher with Chris, as he has only 6 inventory slots, so that loadout I mentioned earlier would render him unable to pick up any items he would find along the way. The limited inventory greatly incentivizes planning your routes to the mansion and deciding what exactly you need to survive the trip. The questions that are always on the player's minds are what items they need, what items they can leave behind, what items might they come across on their journey, and what items are going to be needed to solve puzzles. The choices presented by just the inventory system alone create an extremely engaging gameplay loop as you explore the mansion room by room, picking up items, solving puzzles, visiting the item box, etc. But it's not as easy or as simple as it seems, as there's one ever-present threat that will drain you of your resources if you're not careful. The Arklane Mansion is filled to the brim with monsters, the most common of them being zombies. The enemies in Resident Evil are obstacles in their purest form. They are roadblocks that complicate the traversal of the mansion. You can't just simply kill them for a few reasons. 1. They are quite the bullet sponges, often taking an entire clip or more, and even then they might still get back up. The ammo in this game is extremely limited, so killing every zombie you see is just not viable. And even if you do kill the zombie, you have to burn their bodies to permanently dispose of them. Otherwise, they get back up as Crimson Heads. Crimson Heads are extremely dangerous. They are fast and do an insane amount of damage. Remember how I said that you need to burn the zombies in order to stop them from turning into Crimson Heads? Well, in order to burn the zombie, you need 2 items. You need kerosene and a lighter. The lighter can be used infinitely, as you'll never run out of lighter fluid, but the kerosene, like many other things in this game, is a limited resource, and there's nowhere near enough kerosene to burn every zombie you come across, so the zombies present the player with a few choices. Do they kill and burn the zombie? This wastes the maximum amount of resources, but it does guarantee 1 less zombie in the area. Do they try to dodge the zombie? This is risky, as they might take a bite or 2, which will waste healing items. They can also just stagger the zombie and run past it, but if it's an area that they'll be coming back to, then they'll have to deal with the zombie multiple times. No matter what choice the player makes, they'll have to deal with some type of consequence for that action. Like I said before, Resident Evil's gameplay philosophy is all about choices and decision making. Zombies aren't the only type of enemies you'll encounter either. Resident Evil has a wide variety of monsters that all play their own role. The zombie dogs are really fast and always come in packs. The spiders tend to be slow and static, but if they attack you have a high chance of getting poisoned. But by far the most deadliest enemy in the game has to be the hunters. The hunters are these giant lizard things that are pretty tanky, fast for their size, and can potentially one-shot you. These guys pop up near the second half of the game, and entering a room only to realize that there's a hunter in it is a type of fear that not many games have captured. But in comparison to the zombies, the hunters don't really add any type of extra layers or complexity. They simply serve the purpose of being very dangerous enemies that you either dispatch or run away from, and they fill that role perfectly. Also, they're giant sharks. Hey you, subscribe. There's no way I can make a Resident Evil video without talking about this game's breathtaking atmosphere. Walking around claustrophobic corridors has never been this immersive. Once again, fixed camera angles have been used to present the player with framing that serves not only to unease the player, but also give the game a uniquely cinematic visual style. In a fixed camera angle game, every angle has to be designed and manually placed by the developers, and you can really feel that handmade passion in every frame of this game. Alongside the fixed camera angles is a hauntingly beautiful musical score that gets stuck inside your head even long after putting the game down. The music ranges from atmospheric droning to creepy orchestral pieces, and even some very relaxing tunes. And just like with Tormented Souls, I can't help but highlight the absolutely majestic save room theme. Something that I really enjoy about the old Resident Evil titles that I feel goes very unappreciated is the ability to inspect things in the environment. Going up to anything and pressing the inspect button often leads to some flavor text popping up. And I don't know, I can't quite describe it, but it just adds so much atmosphere and immersion to the game. It's a shame the modern Resident Evils don't really have this small feature. The horror of Resident Evil is not one of excess. There aren't really any jump scares. The game isn't overly gory. It might be a shock to a lot of people, especially considering the later games in this franchise, but Resident Evil is actually a slow burn. It relies on the building of tension over long periods of time for its horror. Everything is designed to unnerve the player and condition them into thinking that something is around the corner. Usually there's not, but there's always the few exceptions. The original Resident Evil is absolutely infamous for its story, most notably the voice acting.
Oh, Jill, this house is dangerous. There are terrible demons. Ouch!
Joseph! Chris? Stop it.
The remake completely fixes the issues present in the original game and actually gives us a pretty decent story. The opening cutscene is phenomenal and really sets with the tone and mood of the game. The way Joseph gets mauled to death is absolutely brutal. Jill's reaction is quite fitting. Voice acting still has its issues. It feels really stilted in this game. If the original suffered from overacting, then this game suffers from underacting. The entire cast speak in a way that makes him sound kind of bored, which, considering the situation they're in, I don't really think is the appropriate reaction. In usual horror game fashion, there are notes scattered all throughout the mansion that provide backstory as well as extra pieces of information to help piece together the overall mystery of the mansion. By far my favorite and most iconic note in this game is the Keeper's Diary, which details the slow and agonizing transformation into a zombie, all culminating with the final words, itchy, tasty. There's also notes left by the architect of the mansion, George Trevor, as he attempts to escape the mansion. Obviously he doesn't succeed, but you can't help but feel sorry for the guy as he comes to accept his fate and only wishes for his family to be safe. Which they're not. By far the best addition to the story has to be Lisa Trevor. Her backstory is genuinely upsetting as she had absolutely horrifying experiments performed on her at such a young age. She pops up a few times throughout the story and every time she appears, the horror is cranked up to 11, especially when you visit her room. It's unnerving to say the least. And then of course, the game ends with an epic confrontation with the Tyrant. No, not that Tyrant, not that Tyrant, this Tyrant. The boss battle isn't very challenging, but with the mansion about to explode and the countdown timer being ever present, the stakes alone make this boss very exciting. And of course, it being a Resident Evil game, the boss goes down to a well-placed rocket shot. So yeah, that's my review of Resident Evil. If you made it this far into the video, hopefully I've persuaded you enough to give this game a try. As you can no doubt tell, this is one of my favorite games of all time. Everything about it is just so perfect, and I felt the need to make this video because with the legion of new fans Resident Evil is getting, I don't want the original titles to fall into obscurity. I'll definitely be making more videos on the classic Resident Evil games, so please stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow the Twitch channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.